I'm so glad we came to your house for today's episode out here on Sabrina's patio in our zero gravity chairs and a delicious cup of like cocoa coffee that your husband made us.
Yes.
This is delicious. Welcome, friends, to the Chatty Coffee Date. It is beautiful here. We're in Western North Carolina together because Sabrina lives out here now. Just had to say that. And the weather is so beautiful, so perfect. Let me just tell you a story, okay, real quick. I know we're going to answer y'all's questions, but I have to tell you something. Sabrina shows up with this really cool chair. She got it from Costco because she's a fancy kid, and she has this zero gravity chair. And I sat in it and I said, this is so cool. I've always seen these, but they're usually a little bit pricier, and so I wasn't sure, and I just didn't do anything. Kid you not, this company Viver that we partner with on many, many different things, I love them. They make fantastic stuff. There comes a child running through being very loud. It's my child, of course. Bun. Shh. Okay, buddy. Real life, just like if you were here, this would happen.
Yep.
She has this cool zero gravity chair. Viva reached out and they were like, hey, we have a couple things that we would love. You know, is there any of this we can share with you? It's part of being on YouTube and doing things. You get different products. One of them was this zero gravity chair. And I was like, can I try this? Because my friend has one and it's so cool. And I have the thinner one, you have the wider one. I wish I would have had the wider one because I think it's just cozier. I like to be able, like, you can like ball your legs up all comfy. Like I wish I would have gotten the wider one. This chair is amazing. I love it. And so we now sit in the yard as if we were moms at soccer practice with our kids, but we're not. We're just sitting in our yard watching the sheep and the dogs and the kids play and whatever. But her and I now roll around with our zero gravity folding chairs. I even have a cool little side table. It's got a little place to hold my phone and my drink, and you have the same. And I'm loving this one. I won't do it right now because this might be kind of awkward, but yeah, you can like fully recline in the whole thing. So last night, all the kids were on the couch watching TV, and her and I put these up in the house behind the sofa because there was no more room. And we just kicked back and we're hanging out in these. I mean, it's quite fantastic. So I'm a cool kid like Sabrina, and I have a zero gravity chair too. But they're really, I mean, they're not even like, they're not that expensive, but they were just more than the regular ones. So it was enough to be like, ooh, is it worth it? I don't.
And if you've never sat in one, you don't know. And like mine, I thought that they were kind of expensive, but I think everything is expensive.
It's true.
So
we're thrifty, thrift story people.
Yes.
Yeah. So then you look at it and you're like,
do I really need something like that? But the fact that my feet can go above my heart is a big deal for you. So my husband was like, no,
we're going to get this.
We're going to get this. This seems like a worthy expense. So I got it. And then I started loving it.
Yeah.
And then now you love it.
Yeah.
So now we all have one.
I do. I'm so excited to have this. So yeah. If you guys are looking for a super comfy chair that you can take and fit anywhere and fit into anything, I will link this one down below. Thank you, Viver, for sending it over because I love this thing. And now have this, like, I keep dragging it into the living room, which isn't necessarily where it's meant to be, but I keep dragging it into the living room and sitting in it there because it's just that comfortable that I'm like, kids, you can have the couch. I'll sit in this happily. Yeah. So anyways, I know we have our Chatty Coffee Date questions to get to. Here with this delicious cup of coffee that your husband has made us. Sabrina is gathering all of y'all's questions. So anytime you have a question on any of our videos that we put out, our new happy homemaking episodes, any of the weekly videos that I've been putting out, any of our old videos even, it doesn't matter. If you just put that little coffee cup emoji next to it, she will see it and we will pull it up to answer in one of these podcasts. Before we get started though, I know this would totally fit in a happy homemaking, but then we'd have to wait till next week. So I'm just going to ask it here. My husband just sent me this and I was so stunned. We've had another scandal of a pastor getting removed from office because of an inappropriate relationship with another person. I was stunned to hear like this is like sometimes it comes from those pastors that aren't true pastors. They're motivational speakers parading as pastors, and you're like, there's a lot of issue here, right? When you see stuff going on with, what was the guy from Hillsong or whatever, right? And you're like, you should have been removed so long ago. Like, there's so many doctrinal issues here. But then sometimes you see it from
those are kind of like predictable almost.
Yeah.
And I don't mean predictable like, oh yeah, they're going to be an awful human being.
No.
But they're like led astray slightly, so
yeah,
it could be something that they would be led astray on. So
they're already blurring the lines of scripture in so many different ways that when something immoral happens, you're like,
am I really that surprised? They were kind of immoral anyway.
It's like when you find out like a rock star is getting a divorce or something, and you're like, I don't know, I wouldn't go to like Tommy Lee for marriage advice.
Okay.
Right?
But I'm going to assume this one was
This one isn't. And so this is the one that is really just, it's always sad to see something, right? Like Ravi Zacharias was shocking because you were like, wow, there's some questionable things, but wow, I wasn't expecting that. The Hillsong pastor is a little more like, I'm not surprised by it. Stephen Lawson. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Massive church in Dallas, which my brother-in-law lives there. We actually just drove by it not that long ago when we were there. And my husband was never the biggest fan. So there were certain things that we just like, he wasn't like our favorite. Like it's not to us like a beloved, those people that you just, I love John MacArthur. You know what I mean? Like I love listening to his teachings. There's many different things, but this wasn't one of like my personal favorites.
It was just one of those that surprised you?
Really surprised me. He apparently, and this is sad, and especially for such a large church that does so much. My brother-in-law, they attend there regularly. They live nearby. It's just massive. And to see that the way that really the Lord has worked in that church in so many different ways, not that anywhere is perfect, of course, but he just came, there goes the dog. He just came to the board apparently, and like himself was like, hey, they haven't shared details yet. Maybe more has come out by the time this podcast comes out.
You're saying that somebody took accountability for their own actions before like news broke?
And something of that caliber too.
I'm amazed that statement can be made because more often than not, people who try to keep things hidden like that usually are pretty successful because they're purposefully trying to keep them hidden.
Yeah.
But to own up to it and remove yourself takes, I'm not saying any of this is right because
no, it's not making an excuse, but
goodness no. But the fact that somebody can own up to it and take ownership of the mishandlings of the situation in any capacity is a good step forward.
It is.
It doesn't make up for anything.
Especially, knowing how big of a stage they're on. That is huge. And again, no details have come out, so I don't know like what the caliber of, right? Sometimes like these things come out and it's like, well, it only came out because you were getting ready to be found out. So like, right, like we've seen things like that happen, and it's just, all of it's heartbreaking to see. But anyways, praying for him and his family and that whole church board as they now have to. So this is huge. Brandon, my husband sent it to me, and I did like a double take and went, wait, what? Are you sure? Like my husband doesn't just, okay, full discretion here. I will see a headline and send it to my husband. I don't necessarily open the article and read it. I will just read the headline and go, and send it to him. And then he opens it and reads it and discerns through it and tells me, I just go, ooh, did you see this? Because like I rarely care enough to dig into it unless it's something that I really care about. Okay. And I know he will dig into it. He is let me dig into it and look at all the pieces. And so I totally cheat and will just send him things and go, ooh, and then he'll open it and be like, yeah, no, that was clickbait. That's not at all what it said. And I go, oh, okay, well, never mind. And like continue on about my life. So when he sent it, it made me go, wait, there's no way he just sent it. Like that's not him. And it had the actual like church's statements. And I'm sure more will come out on this by the time this goes out. But I was just like, oh man, that surprises me. Again, not that he's like my favorite pastor in the whole wide world, but I'm quite surprised that happened with him. Like I would have never guessed Stephen Lawson. That wouldn't have been mine.
Nope.
No. So anyways, that's my crazy story that I never have a story that you don't have. Mm-hmm. And I ran out here and said, whatever you do, don't talk to my husband because I want to have the story that I can tell you because I never have the story. I'm always the last one to know. And truly, tune in for Happy Homemaking each Monday as you will see this happen in person. So anyways, I was excited to have something. This couldn't wait till Happy Homemaking. So I had to share that, which again, I mean, not I'm happy that I knew something before you, but not that, I mean, that's, do you guys understand? Hopefully everybody understands what I mean by that. I don't mean that like I'm happy that that was the news.
I don't think it's bad that you don't know the things.
No, I know. I'm just always the last one to know.
The things that I know are real, like, inconsequential. I'm full of useless trivia.
I love it.
And while it can be fun, that might be all it is sometimes.
Well, so anyways, off to y'all's questions. What questions have the internet's been asking us?
Are you extending Primal Queen?
Oh, okay. So Primal, you get me started every time. Primal Queen is the coolest stuff ever. It is a beef organ supplement that I started taking a few months ago. You guys know I love talking about carnivore, eating carnivore, just because it has been so healing for my body. I've seen it for my husband, and then I've seen it from so many of you who have left comments about it. I started trying Primal Queen, which is just a beef organ supplement. So it's 6 different beef organs in a capsule. I know liver is so great. I know all these things, but like, I'm not going to eat them. I'm sorry. I'm not. So you're telling me I can take a supplement and it just has all these things in it and I don't have to like, they even put little peppermint things in it. So like it even smells good. Like, I mean, they've thought of everything. It's so cool. What? Yes. There's a little silicone heart that comes in. If you open up my jar up there on my desk, because I leave it on my desk so I can take it, they put a little silicone like heart. It says don't eat, almost looks like Alice in Wonderland. It says don't eat me. And they sent it with peppermint essential oil. So that way when you open it up, it smells good.
Because there are some herbal supplements, valerian root. My children call those feet pills.
Because they smell disgusting. These are dried, ground up organs.
So they would
not smell good.
Strange.
Right. They smell like peppermint when you open it up and it's the best. And so I take those and I have seen so many results from it. I have my mom taking it. You've got to start taking it. Like I'm all about the supplements. And I've replaced, I don't take anything else. I only take those now. And the immunity boost in it, I was actually just talking with your daughters about how you guys have such low immune systems. And I said, guess who's going to start taking Primal Queen? Your whole family. But it really is that fantastic. And I started liking it so much. I get a code I can share with you guys, which actually my code used to be for an only 10% discount. Now it's for 25. High five, y'all. Like you can go sign up. If you signed up before, you can cancel, start a new one. Sign up. You get 25% off. That's fantastic. So again, if I can find it, if I can score a good deal because I have a YouTube channel, I will totally pass it on to you guys. So you can get 25% off. And I loved it so much that I was like, if you guys order it, I will give you a special offer. I believe in it so much that I have been picking a winner each month and buying them their second month free. Because I think it's that fantastic. Like I've seen it so much, and literally I have my mom taking it, you're next, your girls, like I really do think it's so fantastic. And so yeah, if you use my link, which we can put, it's linked in all the things, and then I have a link underneath it of where you can go and just put in your email address, and then that collects, and at the end of each month, I let that close. So at the first of the following month, I just randomly select a winner, and then you get a free month of Primal Queen on me, paid for with my own dollars.
Because you believe in it.
Because I believe in it that much. Like I've genuinely seen, and I'm 4 or 5 months in now, and I just keep seeing more. Like they kind of give you an outline of like what you can expect to see, and I'm continuing to see like more things, and I'm like, okay, because most of our bodies are so deficient in so many of our like basic nutrients, and you can get more of these nutrients from organs than you can anything else, literally anything else. And because it comes from a natural source, your body can absorb it like it can't absorb. You know how when you start taking a bunch of vitamins that you buy, how your urine is like fluorescent? it's because your body can't process all of that. And so you end up just passing it all out. Like, talk about how much money we're wasting, right, when we buy that stuff. The drinks that people make, like the green drinks and the stuff, gag. I'm sorry. I would get them sometimes and like try to force myself to drink them. I try mixing them in my smoothies. Like, oh, they're always so awful. And I'm like, you're telling me these are 2 capsules a day? My body's...
You turned down a company.
I did.
Because you didn't like the way it tasted.
They sent it to me. They wanted to offer me an amazing partnership deal. They wanted to do a sponsorship. Like, it would have been great. And I mean, this is work for us. Like, this is how my family pays the bills. It would have been great. And it sounded great. Like, it said it was great. I mean, and
everything was great until you drank it. And then you were like, nope, I can't get behind this because I can't drink this daily.
No.
But you can take the pills or the vitamins daily and you have no problem tolerating that because you're still getting the same things. You really wanted to like the drink.
I did.
Because of what it claimed
could have
done.
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't stomach it. And so you turned it down.
Yeah, I did.
And you were like, I'm so sorry, but actually I can't work with you because I can't drink this. And they were really nice. And everybody has different tastes. Mm-hmm. So like,
and maybe it is
everybody
fantastic.
Could love it and you could just think it's gross. But
I couldn't do it. And I am very upfront and honest with any company that we work with. And so, that one I was like, I am so sorry. I can't do this. These guys, I was like, whoa. Primal Queen is, but like genuinely, I'm seeing so many benefits from it that, so as long as we can, honestly, I'm kind of just leaving that link there. And you guys, whenever you order, you can go and put your email in and be entered in to win a month on me because I do believe in it that much. So, I'm going to keep on keeping on because I love it. I'm over here. And yes, I'm that lady who will stop with like anyone in the grocery store and be like, oh, wow, did you know about?
Yep. She is.
I'm just that person. So, it's there.
Okay. Somebody wants to know if we parent differently. They're curious about how we handle huge parenting differences with younger children.
So, great question. We talked a lot in our last Chatty Coffee Date, and if you missed it, you'll have to go back and watch it. Sabrina just moved out here from Northern California. Our family is originally from Southern California. We met via this YouTube channel. And her and her husband came out to visit a handful of times. We just all became really good friends. Our families are very similar. We always knew that. We do things very similarly. And here, like a month-ish ago, her and her family moved from California here onto our property. And so we've kind of like, we're here on her patio. They have this beautiful fifth wheel that there is like, we keep saying it's like your tiny home, but it's really not even a tiny home. This thing is gargantuan. It's really nice. Our family actually is like, you guys want the big house? And like, we'll come live in this because it's really nice. So they have this like super rockin' fifth wheel down here, but we all kind of mainly do everything together in the house. So like they have their own space. We of course have like our bedrooms and our space, but the family really does communally spend most of our time.
Yes.
So we now are a family of 14 combined with 9 children, ages 6 through 20. So yes, I understand some of them are adult children, but like they're still...
They live on the property. They ask us for advice. They follow our rules. They don't contribute monetarily to a household yet. And so until you leave, you cleave.
Yeah. Like, because 2 of the children that we would call the children, one is your oldest daughter and her fiance. We're getting ready to host their wedding here on the property. They're working to get established here in a new state and get their first home and do all of that. So those numbers are going to change.
Oh, caveat. While we do have a set of engaged people on property, they do not live together.
Oh yeah, that would be
okay, do not misunderstand anything. One,
hold up, we're gonna just answer some coffee cup questions right here. Yes, thank you.
We have 2 20-year-olds who are engaged. They do not share a room.
Nope.
They do not live together. They do not.
Technically, one lives with us and one lives with you.
Correct.
your daughter lives with me.
Yes.
Her fiance lives with you.
Yes. And actually he just got a job and he works the night shift.
Yep.
And my daughter got a job and she works the day shift. So they kind of pass each other right now.
Yeah.
In this weird, like, let's build a family and try to move forward and do all of the things.
But until they have their wedding and their stuff,
they're separate.
Very separate.
So I know where that could have gone. Hold up. But we do have a engaged set. And then we have many children until 6. So how do we do it?
I thought this was interesting because when your daughter moved in with us before you guys moved out here.
Correct.
Your daughter was actually out here living with us, like left her fiance in California with you all and moved out here in with us and lived the first part of the year with us.
Correct.
And she was going through different things, as one would assume a young, newly engaged girl might be going through. And this is what we said to her, but I feel like it sums this up the best.
Okay.
We told her that I understood she was an adult, but she was living with us, and you and your husband had entrusted me and my husband to be her parents, right? So I told her, I said that I know that we all have the same moral compass, right?
Yes.
Scripture.
Yes.
It's across the board.
Correct.
Like for our family, we don't necessarily have rules. Our rule is, can you reconcile that biblically? So our rule has been that if you can reconcile it biblically, I'll hear you out. Like isn't that what we're all called to as Christians? So that's kind of our rule. So I told her that while I know we have the same basis, I will always support you guys, you and your husband, when it comes to the decisions you make and the rules you have and the answers you give. So I said, now we could come to situations that maybe it's not how I would handle it, or maybe that wouldn't have been my response. Again, can it be reconciled biblically? Are we still on the same page there? Yes. Okay, then I back your parents. Now that maybe that's not what I would have said or how I would have handled it or exactly what I would have done, but it's not that. I mean, if you guys were totally going off the rails, I don't know what that situation would be, but if you guys were totally going off the rails, but I'd be like, okay, how about you come over here, because your parents have obviously gone insane for the time being. Like, I don't know what's going on, like, sure, could that happen? Of course, I guess it could. But my response was that we know we agree here. And so even if it's not the way I necessarily would approach it, I would back you guys up. And we've talked about this because now, like our 6-year-old, she went from having 2 teenage older siblings to having, how many of them? 7?
Yes.
7 of them are teenagers.
Yes. Well.
Yeah. Because 8 and 9. Yeah.
So 9 are actually teenagers.
Right.
And then 8 of them are older teenagers.
Yeah.
We have 1 middle teen.
Yeah.
And many older teens.
Yeah. So I basically, we kind of talked about when you were in here. I said, hey, I do not expect anyone else to be I have the youngest kids. I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old. Nobody is their parent but me and her dad, right? Like, and their dad, like, we're the parents.
Yep. Now,
we're very clear in our rules and how things work as far as like what's okay and what's not okay. If you happen to see something that hey, that's not what's supposed to be happening, you're more than welcome as an older sibling to be like, hey, is your mom okay with that? Is that what you're supposed to do?
If somebody were to, let's say, be on a live and occupied, and someone else were out with some of the other children, if one of the teenagers, the older teenagers, were to see a younger one going, I totally want ice cream for breakfast.
Yeah. Because this is a real story. This just happened.
The older teenagers would go, oh, ice cream for breakfast. When have we ever had ice cream for breakfast? This seems like an oddity. How about we double check with our parents and then you can have it?
And they said, I'll put it away.
And they were
because
like,
they know that's obviously not an okay thing to do. Like, you thought you could get away with something.
So it wasn't the teenager's responsibility to
No.
parent anybody,
Mm-mm.
but we all have a family rule that you should nourish and fuel your bodies before you have any kind of snacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're not eating ice cream for breakfast. Thanks for pointing that out. It all worked out. Now, I think in the same way, like, you and your husband do a lot with the younger girls because they adore you and think you hung the moon and, you know, twinkle out the stars every night. So you do a lot with them, but I think it's kind of fun to watch because your kids are all older. It's fun to watch you guys. You guys are almost like the fun aunt and uncle.
Yes.
But yet the more responsible because you're also the parent. And so, I mean, could we get to a point where maybe it's like, ooh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we could. Again, like anything's possible, but like we just both parent so similarly that even the times that you're like, but for you guys, when you guys hit the point that you're like, I don't think so, you tell them, let's go check with your parents.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the only parent in charge, or you're the only parent in charge, you're going to say, hey, this is what I'm saying because I'm the one who's responsible here for everyone.
The buck stops here. I say this because I'm the one in charge right now. Sorry, kids.
And if I'm
all talk with mom and dad when they get home. Yeah. Sorry, buck is here.
Right. But if I'm sitting in the other room and you just happen to be out there, you would say, let's go check with your mom. I don't know if she wants you doing that. So I think it's worked very seamlessly.
I guess neither one of us try to parent each other's children. Like,
I think it's that mom thing, even the dad thing of like seeing when, like, we came out here to do this. My 6-year-old is very high energy.
Yes.
Very high energy. My
Not
husband,
naughty, just high energy.
Yeah. My husband is getting ready to cook a meal for everybody right now. And so your husband just said, oh, hey, I could totally do this. Keep her occupied. And then everybody wins type of a situation, which I think is really cool. And so, yeah, it something also that I think is really neat is while we are all very similar, you definitely are more like I actually talked about this. I took 3 of our daughters. We are together raising 6 daughters. I took 3 of them out for coffee last week so we could all have a conversation. They all wanted to talk and asked if I would take them out and we could all talk about something. And I said, sure, that's fine. We had a great conversation and then we talked about it and we said, your daughter actually mentioned, she said, I love this so much because you and my husband tend to be more emotional and sensitive.
Yes.
Me and your husband are like the stark opposites.
Yes.
And together, they were like, this is so cool. Because if I need to connect in an emotional sense, I can go to this mom or this dad. If I need more of this, I can go to this mom and that dad. So it is cool in that way of like, that's kind of neat that we can give the kids, like I feel sometimes I'm letting my kids down because I really struggle with connecting in more of that like emotional side of it. And so they're like, my kids are like, can I go talk to Miss Sabrina about something? And I'm like, yeah, go talk to Miss Sabrina. Where your kids sometimes are like, I need to talk to someone, but I don't want the emotional aspect of it. Can I come talk to you? And I'm like, sure, come talk to me. You know, like,
I guess it's what the child is needing. So are they needing somebody to bounce logistical ideas off of? They would go to one person. If they're needing somebody to emotionally support them and ask them the things and do the things with them, they would go to another person.
Dig down deeper through that and work through that.
If they just need somebody to physically be there and be, let's say, a driver, they have all of the different avenues in parents to go to. So I think of it as winning. There are plenty of things that in your home I'm like, yep, wouldn't do it that way. But does it matter to me? No. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not the parent. I don't need to be the parent because even if that's not what their parent wanted them to do in that exact moment, that's a parent's job. And while if it's dangerous, we would obviously immediately stop something. But if it's just eating ice cream for breakfast, we could suggest that, hey, can we check with mom first? Because like this seems odd, but we're not going to let them run with knives.
And I think the aspect too that's really neat about it is we both have 4 children, 1 boy and 3 girls. Like we both have that. You had yours all like back to back.
4 kids, 3 years. Yep.
Yeah. So your kids are essentially, especially now that they're in the older teens, they're all essentially like the same age.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like just that like,
yes.
Mine are 20 down to 6.
Yes.
So it's kind of
Vastly
interesting
different.
too, because we look at things and it is interesting to see you had to parent so differently because
Yes.
you had 4 in 3 years.
Yes.
Where my parenting we might kind of have the same ideals, but it plays out differently because I've been doing it for a much longer drawn out process,
Yes.
right? And we've talked about how some things like it's so much easier because of that, it's so much harder because of that. You had it so much easier because of some things, harder because of other things. So I think that's kind of interesting too in some of the things, because you're like, wow, this is not how I did it with my kids. And I'm like, you're right, because you had 4 in 3 years. Like you would have never survived if you did it like that. Well, I'll be honest and say there's definitely some things that we didn't start off this way with our oldest, but now we've been worn down for so many years that I'm like, I've picked my battles and that's not one of them. I've given up on that.
With your way of spreading your children out, with your timing.
And I have some big gaps between my first and my second, my third and my fourth. We've got like 6-year gaps.
There's quite large gaps in there. With that, from your first to even your third, you got to learn as a parent. So you got to mature and
I did
learn different parenting techniques that benefited you.
Yeah.
I messed up all of mine at the same time.
No, you didn't.
I didn't get a chance to learn anything. I screwed them all up at the same little go. Done. But that's how it felt in the moment. But
because I really have changed as a parent in many ways from my first to my fourth, but I've also went from being a 17-year-old mom to a mom in my like latter 30s. So like I've just changed a lot through that.
I was 21 with 4 kids.
Yeah.
That doesn't, like, there's no maturing in that. I matured with my children.
Yeah.
I wish in a lot of ways that I had it spread out a little bit more so that I could have matured more and been a better parent to them earlier. But I wasn't. This is the timing God intended. Don't understand it. Don't get it. But it is the timing that He wanted. So I just play my part in it and do the best I can with what I got. So...
But I think it's neat because, again, it's just some of those slight differences. Again, we all are very similar. And we've said this. We've been friends for years, and we've always laughed because our families are so similar. I think that my son is actually biologically your son. I'm pretty sure your oldest daughter is actually my daughter. Like, we look at just some of the similarities, and we're like, that's weird. There's a lot of really interesting similarities here. But we always knew that we would get along, or our homes, we just run very similarly. And so since you guys have been here, it has been interesting to see if like, wow, it really has been like a very seamless, and we're both very upfront families and people of like, oh, hey.
There's one of the reasons that it works so well between us is that we have both taken the attitude of, why would we not just discuss it with the other person while it's happening, or like right after it happened or before? Like, why would we not do that? Why would we not just be upfront about it? Because then immediately it could be altered to something more comfortable for everyone. Like,
so when we've run into issues or little disagreements, it has been much more of like, ooh, let's go sit down and talk about this right now. And it's, hey, this kid's having an issue with this kid because they did this, and I don't think they meant it that way, but that's how it was taken. And then we can all sit down together and discuss it, and then it's...
Oh, that's never what I meant by that. Because I've said things that have upset people just because of the pattern of speech that I have, and then I can notice a difference in them and go, oh, I think I did something. I'll wait a few minutes and go, yep, I did something, and then I'll go and ask. And I've asked people to just be really upfront with me because I don't understand a lot of things. So can you just like tell me so that I'm not guessing wrong the whole time?
Yeah.
And if we all have an attitude of, tell me what I did and how to make it better so that it's more comfortable for everyone, cool, let's do that. That'd be way better.
Yeah. So it's, I think, again, actually going quite well. I can't think of anything that was like, ooh. Again, I'm not saying it's never going to be something that I'm like, hey, why'd you do that? But like, it's not your job to parent my kids. It's not my job to parent your kids.
Nope.
So at the end of the day, I go, hey, you might need to go have a conversation with your parents about that. Because I just had a conversation with your parents about that. That's not okay, or whatever. But I think we just also have really awesome kids. I think our kids have been raised quite well, and they do a really good job at being respectful of just one another and everything, you know, together. And so it's, you know,
it's meshed really well.
It really has. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but like, it just has. So hopefully that helps, I guess. I don't know if that helps.
The next question is very similar. Please, could you share how you manage screen and the internet and YouTube, etc., for all of our youngsters? What limits do we have? How would you advise cutting access for kids that have been used to accessing these things for a long time?
So what had happened was, I will say that in our house, again, this is another experience we noticed was so interesting because your children all essentially matured at the same time. Mine are very spaced out.
Yes.
So it's a constant like stream. Especially when things get chaotic, I will notice that our influence balance is getting goofed up.
Okay.
Our family has very strict go and no goes because, again, can you reconcile this biblically?
Yep.
Most everything that's out there you can't. So it's a no go. But we try to have very set boundaries and things to keep things in check. And I think we all should have that. I think as adults we should have that. I think everybody should have that, right? But especially for our children. I will say that we had some chaos going on this summer. My mother-in-law just passed away out there. Then you guys were coming. We're trying to get separated. So like our household rhythm has been a little wonky. But I also knew you guys were on your way, right? We're doing all of that. So it's kind of one of those like everything's getting ready to change.
Yep.
Here we come. So I am probably the worst person to say this considering everything I do revolves around putting stuff out on YouTube. But YouTube really isn't allowed in our house. Our kids have some usage of YouTube. Every device they each have a device. They have a device they can play on, and then they do technically have like a laptop that we use for co-op. It's a Chromebook that they use for co-op. I use the Google Family link on everything, so they don't have access to anything that I haven't given them access to. And that allows us multiple different things. It allows us great communication. I see what they're doing. I see what they're clicking on. If things are getting too much and too out of control, I can take it away. I can set timers. They can only have so much time. There's so many different utilities that we have with that. And everything is to be done like at the dining room table. They do go into a closed room for school, right? Because they have certain things they have to do. They get on with the co-op. Yep, they do the online co-op.
Privacy makes sense with an online class because we have 14 people in the house and a ton of animals, and it can get real loud just by the sheer walking up and down the hallway.
Right, and the kids can't focus and pay attention to their class if that's going on.
That's not fair to anybody.
No, and so they do have set instances where they do something privately. Our teenage daughter actually runs a YouTube channel of her own. And so we have very set rules with, and everything that goes on with that. It's faceless, so she's not actually on it, but she does run it. And so she does have a space where she can go to for her recording, to have a quiet space that she can do stuff and all of that. So like we have a couple of things that we do, but having timers set for how much can be done, having control of what they're accessing, how parents just give kids like unlimited, here you go, have at it, is a little terrifying, I think. And for us, internet usage, just device usage, everything is done in the family space. So they don't have TVs in their room, they don't have computers in their room, they don't take devices to their room. Like that's not, except for those occasions, we have set things for, but everything is done out at the dining room table. So it makes it just so much easier to really monitor and just hold one another accountable. We will do some YouTube watching, and that is done on our singular family TV in the living room. So if they are watching something, it's done out there in the living room. It's very few and far between, to be honest with you, but that's where it's done. And so I just recently was looking because things, like I said, things have gotten a little wonky and a little much, just with all the back and forth and whatever. And so I actually sat down. I usually do this every season, kind of reassess, but I went through like our daughter's approved games and sites and stuff and actually cleared out a whole bunch of stuff because I'm like, we're spending a little bit too much time on here. We're going to take these off and kind of reset the slate. You guys come with the Google router. Okay, technically I found that I can do this. There's like a bug buzzing between us. Mosquitoes eat me alive, and I sprayed myself with so much bug spray before we came out here, so that's probably what's freaking out. Apparently I could have done this. I just found this out with our new Spectrum router that I could have done this, but you look crazy. I know, sorry. There's a mosquito here, I promise. We need like a fan. We should set a fan out here next time. Yep. But getting on most of the routers now, you can do this. I really want to get your Google router set up because the Google system, I've wanted to purchase the Google system for so long. And once you guys were like official, you're moving, I'm like, okay, we'll just wait for you guys to get here. You can control every device on it and cut things off, allow things. So I really want to get that set up just because I think it's so important, especially if you haven't been having conversations with our kids of why we're doing this. You don't have to like it, but I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you my reasoning. Living it out for yourself, right? If you're just sitting there on your device all the time and watching whatever and stuff, like it's kind of hard to be like harping at your kids about it when you're doing it. So I think hold yourself accountable as well. And then being able to start giving some limits and parameters, right? Like I said, my kids don't just have access to YouTube. I think that's a horrible idea. Even YouTube kids, I am amazed at the things I see on there.
So concerning.
So concerning. So again, the world's going to do what the world does. Okay. YouTube is great for many things, but we only utilize it in the way that it's good for those things. And my kids don't just have like all out access. So they can only get on if they are out at the table with everyone. They can only get on to certain things. They can only get on for a certain amount of time. And it's something that's very out in the open and discussed and shared. I got it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Nice job.
Just stabbed you, but there, I got it. Okay. Saved you from the mosquito. So that's what we do for our kids. Again, we've got like 6. My 20-year-old is the only one that I don't monitor. He is probably like, he's also my like least needing to be monitored child I have. I mean, I'm genuine. Like he really is just, and I could tell you, I mean, I could go in and get on his computer at any point in time. I mean, I do sometimes because I have files on there. So sometimes I have to go in. He teaches in our co-op and he is an author. So he writes. So like he has stuff that he utilizes for his work. And I actually have some of my stuff on it. So sometimes I need to go in and get things. So it's so funny. One day he told me, he's like, Mom, whatever you do, don't open that folder on my computer. And I was like, kind of looked at him. He goes, it's got some spoiler alerts for my book and I don't want you to see it yet. And I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was kind of weird that you like didn't want me to look at that. But he is just, you know, like I said, he's the only one that I really don't like actively monitor. But I also don't have like a reason to. Although he was playing Sims, he's building a new sim house this morning.
Was
he was in there playing Sims this morning, and I went in there and he showed me this house and I was like, can you build this for real? It's beautiful. I love it so much. It was really cool. I'll show you later. What do your kids do on the internet?
I have all older kids. So I have 2 16-year-olds. I have an 18-year-old, and then I have 2 20-year-olds.
Yep.
And so we moved out to the country and we didn't have the internet.
You guys are way out in the boonies.
Way out in the boonies. And so we didn't have the internet. We had cable because it came literally with our house. We didn't even control it at all. But satellite dish came with our house. And so essentially the only thing that I allowed when the children were very young was Food Network. Like we watched a lot of Food Network.
Yeah.
And then like PBS.
Yeah.
Or some BBC stuff. But that's about it. So my kids were incredibly sheltered. But it was more situational. Just where we lived didn't have the internet yet.
You genuinely didn't have it. Yeah.
We didn't have, it was not that we were denying our children the internet. We had no capability of acquiring the internet. The internet did not come out to us. So we just didn't. And then when we moved into town, we slowly allowed internet access with our children. They are very confused by internet access. Like, they still question so many different things, but
it's good though. I mean, in a good way, we should question.
I have he's just 18, but our son actually makes a living playing video games.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's really, really weird.
My poor brother, who's in his 30s now, his early 30s, that's all he ever wanted to do. Yes. And that was back in the 90s and early 2000s. Yep. And it was like, what are you going to do? Get paid to play video games all day? And now 18-year-old, now 18-year-old kids are like making buco bucks playing the internet. And my brother's like, dang it, that's all I wanted to do.
Your brother has been asking my son's advice on
so how does one do this?
So if a 30-year-old were going to try to make one of these channels where we play video games, how would we go about that? But it kind of happened organically, and we allowed it slowly. We talked a lot. We had open conversations. We are a very talky family. So
communication is key.
We just talked about everything. And my son, again, was one of those that are just super duper weird, and they're the boys that you don't have to watch out for the same way. And so
we've also both been families that are really, really open about discussing those types of things. You know what I mean? Like, we discussed from a young age, especially with our son, things like pornography and different outlets and things like we just discuss that stuff very openly, so that way, you know, we just have those conversations.
We have my son has,
not that we don't have them with girls too, because that obviously
the world is the way the world is, and boys are more targeted. Yes, they're just more targeted, so they have to be protected a little bit differently. We have a my son has an uncle, my sister's husband, who plays video games, and he plays a lot of video games. And so anytime my son is like, hey, is this video game a video game I can play? He always looks up all the stats and all the things and all the whatevers. And then he calls his uncle and he's like, so have you played this? Do you think it would be acceptable? What kind of rating system are we talking about? Are we just talking about like blood on the screen, or are we just talking like nudity? Because I can't do things. Because there are just different levels, and so you just have these really, really open conversations. And we didn't just give free access. We conversate all the time about it, and it's why I have all these useless, silly trivia facts in my head, because my kids come in and they go, Mom,
did you know?
Did you hear about? And I have 4 teenagers. So
you hear about all kinds of things.
With their wide reach of weird oddities of 4 teenagers, their tastes vary. And so they tell me all kinds of things, and I find out all kinds of things. But we talk about it, and there have been things where it goes, oh, well, you know, with how much or how you're talking about that, maybe we should monitor how often we do it. Or if we've noticed a behavioral change in somebody, we may mention, so I noticed that while you come out of playing that game, you're really angry. Is everything okay? Does the video game make you feel angry? Are you real anxious and worked up afterwards, and then you're upset and you just take it out on your siblings?
Maybe that's not a game we want to be spending our time on.
Maybe we should not play that game, or at least limit it at least.
Bare minimum. Yeah.
Bare minimum. We monitor it, and maybe we do 10-minute game spurts. And if you don't feel angry after 10 minutes, maybe it's acceptable for 10 minutes at a time, because you're right, it's real fun to do this quest or do that whatever. Sure, okay. But I know, as a person who once was a younger person,
many moons ago, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth,
according to our children,
yes,
we're
boomers.
The word boomer is being thrown around an awful lot.
Yeah.
But
we also call the kids whippersnappers.
Oh,
so
yes. It's so fun. Oh, it's so fun.
But I think it's that balance, right? And constantly reevaluating that and discussing that. Like, when we start to notice things, we go, why is this happening? Let's talk about it.
I remember music being played only at certain events, and then it like creates this energy that let's say a football game.
Yep.
It creates this energy that is used for the enthusiasm of the players. But if that were outside of a football game, it could almost be considered a riot or a mob. Yeah. The same exact energy level in certain situations is acceptable, but not in others. So, as an adult, I know I've felt emotional through music or through watching a movie that makes me very sad, and then I can't get rid of the sadness afterwards.
Right.
I better not watch those sad movies.
Yeah, let's not binge those all day.
If you turn into the crying mess of a girlfriend eating the ice cream and my boyfriend, if you turn into that, maybe not watch the movies. Like, they made you feel a certain way. Monitor it.
Yep.
Limit it. But you have to have somebody to talk to about it. Otherwise, nobody understands anything.
And I feel like my my biggest advice, if you haven't done this already, you've got to do it. Don't neglect it any longer, but have very open conversations about it. And when you remove stuff, make sure you replenish with something else. I actually did a video about detoxing from screen time, and we will try to link that. So if I don't, just leave me a comment, but we will try to link that for you guys so you can take a look at that. But I think our food is ready. I'm getting texts on my watch going, hey, are you guys ready? I cooked dinner for you. So we're going to finish up having this lovely chat with you all out here. And again, continue, ask questions. We're open books. We'll come over and hang out at Sabrina's house or out on her patio. I'm like watching the sheep and the dogs, and there's kids
We've
playing.
gotten to watch kids take off, and then they came back and grabbed some clippers and then ran back down, not ran with clippers, but like
down there
toddled around.
And
now we get to go figure out what they were doing and eat dinner. And
dogs are rolling around, sheep are walking through the field. It's beautiful out, and we are in the comfiest chairs ever. So again, you need to get a zero gravity chair. I will link mine down below. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Any questions, like I said, on any videos, even old ones, just put that little coffee cup emoji. She will find it so we can get you featured here. And I like this. This is nice. Having friends to be able to chat with and sit outside and do this. Much better.
This is the way life should be.
This is what it should be. Yeah. So we will see you all right back here in the next one. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And that's it for us. Bye, friends.